Welcome to another episode of the Ex-Fugitive Factor. Today we're going to be talking about the Ukraine-Russia peace deal and where we're at with that. I believe it was Friday, Trump met with President Vladimir Putin in Alaska. It was the Alaska Peace Summit. At first appearance, it appeared to be going very well. However, Putin is still actively attacking Ukraine, which is concerning but not surprising. You know, he wants to keep applying pressure. You do notice, though, that the targets and the deaths and the injuries were very minimal. As far as I've seen so far, I need to take another look at that because these things are developing constantly. However, last week we had Ukrainian President Zelenskyy basically saying that land swaps were not off the table, but he did not really give any detail as to what exactly that entailed. Everything's been kind of hush-hush. Trump is doing an excellent job at bringing the countries together. This is not an easy feat. This is very difficult. These guys hate each other. My opinion is Putin needs to release the 19,000, I believe it is, children that have been taken captive for to be either fostered out or for educational purposes, or I don't even remember what I read, but he needs to return those children. And if he immediately returns those children and sincerely in writing agrees and immediately enforces it throughout his military force that you do not kill civilians, women, children, and you do not take captive women or children and you leave them in their homes, then if he can agree to that, I think that that's the most important element. If he can agree to that, I think that the ICC should squash his warrant and allow him to travel freely. I think that Putin, him and his administration, the state of Russia, they are going to continue to portray a strong front no matter what till the death. We know that the Ukrainians are hard fighters. They are going to do the same. They're going to protect their land and people to the death. We know that. Zelenskyy, we get that you got the dog in you, and that goes for Putin as well. You never underestimate Putin. That man is very seasoned in this game, and he is a very skilled and trained individual. So, you know, nobody has anything to prove. I think it's time for them to come to the table and kind of just, you know, find a way to resolve this to where both parties, you know, can save face with their narratives and their media, and just let's move forward and stop the killing, because a lot of people are getting killed and it is a humanitarian crisis. And you know, I'm not mad at the ICC for issuing that warrant because it is warranted in this case for sure. But at the same time, in my personal life, I've enacted more positive change within organizations, government entities, etc. Not when I won on paper. It was the process that enacted the change. It was the process that changed the mindset and that got the desired result. You can get the desired outcome without winning on paper. It is very possible. It happens all the time. And when you're thinking long term and when you're running a country, I would imagine, you know, I don't run a country, but I would imagine that Putin, I mean, he needs to realize that some of the war crimes are not good. Like, it's hard to give a specific opinion on the exact what I believe they should do as far as the land swaps, because they're keeping it undercover, the details of the land swaps for the most part. But we do know that Donbass is a big thing there. And I think Putin needs to back off of Donbass and give it back to Ukraine. A lot of damage has been done. You should look at the positives. You have an opportunity to do significant business with the United States. You have an opportunity to do significant business with the EU potentially. You have an opportunity to get some type of land out of the war. You have an opportunity to get those warrants squashed so that you can travel freely. I mean, you're a trillionaire, but if you can't travel throughout more than half of the world, I mean, what's the point? So that's something that I think that as in a good faith effort, without the paperwork, release the children, say that you won't do that. And I bet you that the ICC squashes the warrant and we call it a day on that. So that's my take on that. Now, as far as a trilateral meeting being the next meeting, at this time, the White House looks to have a bilateral meeting between Putin and Zelensky, which I agree with, and I don't think that we should even bring the EU to that meeting. I think that that meeting should be a video conversation with only Putin and only Zelensky, so that they can talk and try to come to some type of common ground, so that it can move forward, because that's really the key. I think the EU should stay out of the room. I think that the Russian seniors, officials, should stay out of the room, and it should be purely Putin and Zelensky for this first meeting. That sounds like the best approach, and that appears to be what the White House is going for, and I agree with that 100%, and that's not something, I'm not going to agree with the White House 100%, I'm not going to agree with Trump 100% all the time, but so far, in the last month, it's kind of hard to argue with it, because I have eyes, and I've personally witnessed a lot of the things. And then, with this, when you really look into it, some of these issues, you really got to take a look and be like, enough is enough. Right, wrong, both are right. I mean, they both have points, but we have to move forward and get this peace deal done. And Trump is the guy to do it. If you don't watch Democratic news and actually watch full clips of things that are going on at the Russia summit, Trump reveals what he's been doing the last several months. Trump's been solving wars and ending war after war, and it hasn't been getting enough coverage. But at the end of the day, I think that Zelensky realizes that this has put Ukraine on the map. I think that Russia realizes that they're in a good position right now to set up long-term contracts where they can actually get wealthy and prosper and not be at war over a city or a piece of land. It's just ridiculous, and it's not necessary. I'm not downplaying. I don't even remember, to be honest with you, what Putin's reasons were that he wanted. I used to know them, but it's been so long. I don't even remember why he wants the land. It's just, even for sentimental purposes or historical purposes, it doesn't matter. Times change. I mean, how are you that attached to a piece of land? Let it go. Ukraine is a small country. Let them have their land and let them live in peace. If you're willing to let them live in peace, like, you really don't need to be worried about the European nations. I don't foresee them trying to fuck with you or mess with you. If anything, they'll do business, but if they can only do business if you're not doing war crimes. And that's a fact. So I'd love to see Putin adhere to First Lady's letter and actually go ahead and release the children. I'd like this, if he does that and he sincerely implements 100% reverse on current official or unofficial customs of the military in Ukraine to kill civilians, attack civilian sites. If they cease to do that, then we've made a huge step across the world. As for all the narratives that say that Trump looked weak during the Alaska summit, I mean, it's just ridiculous. All you have to do is look at and watch the footage. When Trump shook Putin's hand, he stood there and waited for Putin. Putin came to him. He pulled Putin in with his signature move, and Trump was clearly in control. As they're walking down the red carpet, the most advanced technology in the military technology is flying over Putin's head, and you'll notice, if you watch the full footage, Trump looks straight ahead. He knows it's there. Putin, a little nervous, not too nervous. He knows Trump's a man of his word, so he wasn't too nervous. But it was to send a message. Trump looked extremely presidential. Trump looked extremely strong. And the narrative that Trump looked weak is just bullcrap. It doesn't even make sense. And when I listen to it, I'm like, why am I even listening to this? Because this is ridiculous. Like, that's not the case at all. Trump brought someone that has a warrant from the ICC. So the EU wants this man, and Trump is bringing him over to our country to speak to him. That's gangster. That's not, that's the boss doing that. That's not the EU. Like, Ukraine can't do that. Everybody keeps saying it all comes down to land swaps. So what does it really boil down to? Primarily Crimea, which Russia annexed in 2014 and completely controlled, and also the Donbas region, which is a very large region. It's been a focal point of international negotiations and conflict since 2014. Putin has had partial control of major cities, the two major cities, Donetsk and Luhansk. Since 2014, he's had a significant presence there. The Donbas region is really like a industrial region primarily. There is a nuclear plant located somewhere that is kind of critical to negotiations as well, but the majority of it's just industrial and coal. So, it's a monetary thing. Russia considers these portions of Ukraine historically Russian. And that's been like the primary basis of his initial reasoning. I mean, Zelensky and Putin have only met one time. I believe that was 2019. They met and they had a trilateral meeting with the EU. They haven't had a whole lot of contact. I think that they need to have a one-on-one Zelensky-Putin video to start things off and see where we can go from there. Don't forget, guys, Trump can still put economic sanctions on Russia. He could send more military aid to Ukraine with regards to weaponry that'll be now funded by the EU. He could put sanctions on countries that support Russia. He could end up walking away from the whole thing, I mean, if it were to get ridiculous. But we are seeing a different Zelensky. We're seeing a different Trump for sure. We're seeing a slightly different Putin. If you notice with Putin, since the meeting, he has continued to attack, which is not good. And he's doing that to continue to apply pressure. And he's also doing that for strategic reasons, because he doesn't have certain key territory that he wants in his mind. He definitely needs it. He doesn't need it. He's way better off economically stopping this war, doing business with the United States, doing business with the EU, returning the children immediately, returning the women immediately, and agreeing and making sure that none of that happens anymore. Period. I mean, if he does that, that's going to go a long way with the entire world, and the ICC probably will and should squash the warrant if he does that. And that should be the last example of that. They need to make laws that if you do stuff like that during war and you're taking the women and children, then you get nuked. I mean, that's the way they should do it, is that there's no mercy. We just take you and your entire city out. So you're going to think twice about doing that, because I don't agree with that at all. Putin, it's not difficult to glamorize Putin as far as like being like a big boss or being a tough like world leader, but there's certain lines you just shouldn't cross. He's crossed them. He needs to reverse course immediately, and he's in a good position where he can reverse course and not suffer personal consequences regarding it, as far as like jail time or execution or anything like that. So he needs to use that to his advantage at this time and move forward in that regard. A lot of the people in that region of Ukraine actually heavily supported Russia prior to 2014, and Russia exploited that. They recognized it, they exploited it, and they moved in. And it's aggressive behavior. Russia's already a large country. It really doesn't need that territory. If it would play the rules, it doesn't have anything to worry about with the EU. But he's got to play by the rules. Another big part of the negotiation are the security guarantees, which are not super complex, but Putin basically has agreed to security guarantees as far as I understand it, but he wants to have his troops be the ones guaranteeing the security, which really I don't know where he came up with that, but he did. You know, other things, you know, obviously withdrawal of Russian forces, and then Russia also wants to be nationally recognized as like the power in these regions. Ukraine has said in the recent weeks that they will not recognize Russia's power over Ukraine. So paraphrasing, displaced persons, they need to be able to return and rebuild. It's just getting ridiculous. So at the end of the day, the smartest move for all parties involved is peace. It makes the most sense. Putin's going to make far more money working with the United States, selling to the United States, buying from the United States, selling to the Eastern European countries, buying from the European countries, and living in peace, not spending billions and hundreds of billions of dollars on war. It's ridiculous. And for such a small amount of area, for historical significance, historically things change. I mean, that's like somebody coming and trying to take over Russia, whoever had Russia 3,000 years ago. And it's just, it doesn't make a lot of sense. Let's put an end to this. Let's get this happen. We got the right guy on the job, Donald J. Trump. He does not mess around. He has the strongest cards out of everyone at the table. And the reality is that if he ends up pulling the Trump card like I talk about in my other video, that's going to be a shit show for everybody over there. And that's not going to be good. I think the EU is going to back him if he pulls the card. They're not going to oppose him. We'll see what happens. Hopefully, all I know is that if U.S. troops have to put their boots down on the ground in Ukraine, then that means that it should be a U.S. state. And that's where I stand on it. And it's my belief that both Ukraine and Russia need to come to the table. They both have nothing to prove. They've both proven that they're, tough, and they're, Vladimir, he's been around a long time. He's very seasoned in the game. The Ukrainian President Zelenskyy, not so much, but he is evolving. He's getting much better. I was impressed with his performance on Monday at the White House. Much better than I've seen before him in the past. He was a buffoon. Did much better. He's trying. And there's there's also a big cultural, when you have these meetings, there's, big cultural and linguistic obstacles to overcome. But he's doing much better, and I'm happy with his performance on Monday. Putin, I'm happy with how it went with the summit with Trump and Putin. Trump was clearly in control of all these narratives going around. Ignore that, because that's not the case here. And also this this overbearing narrative that the Trump administration is. If you listen to what they're actually saying, they're pushing for a quick resolution, but they're saying, we don't know. Like, it's not really up to us. These guys, it's up to them being able to work it out. So they're very cautious in their projection of expectations regarding this. So I don't understand the narrative in the left-wing media that's basically saying that the White House was praised. Yeah, it went excellent, but it went better than expected. The expectations were not very high. So I don't, these narratives, you can follow them if you want, or you can follow me, Jeremiah Sitterson at Ex-Fugitive Factor, where we bring it to you raw and uncut. Hey guys, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We appreciate your support. We need it to keep moving forward. See you next time. Have a great day.